Hello and welcome back to the journey to become a QlikSense master. Today we are going to talk about the aggregation function in QlikSense. So what it means by aggregation. Aggregation, in short, we call it AGGR, and is used when we want to segregate our measures values into partition based on the dimension that we want to group by. So suppose we want to sum up the value based on the customer ID, or we want to perform an average sum of value based on our customer ID. Okay, now let's load our data, and remember to insert the exit script right after the AGGR section. Alright, we do not want to run the script below the AGGR section here. Okay, let's close this window and we go back to our sheet. Now let's create a table. Let's add in the dimension that we loaded into the model. Okay, we're gonna drag in the year, month here. Let's add in the customer ID here. And let's add in a measure, and we want to do an average of our value here. Okay, so the average that QlikSense calculated is 116. Okay, so how did QlikSense come up with 116? Basically, the algorithm in QlikSense is to sum up all the value here, then divided by the number of records that is available inside this table. So let me show you using an Excel to get a clearer picture. Okay, the sum of value here is 1400. Let's create a sum formula here. Then let's drag this downwards. Okay, so the sum here is showing 1400. Okay, and the number of rows here is 12. Here we have 12 rows, so let's have 1400 divided by 12, and we get 116. Okay, the result is similar if we compare the number returned in QlikSense, which is also 116. Okay, next let me show you another kind of average operation, which is calculating the average by the customer ID. Now suppose we want to calculate the average value for each of the customer. Okay, we couldn't use this average operator because this gives us the average calculated value throughout the year. Okay, because we are taking the sum of all the value throughout the year, which we divided by 12, and also 1 full year of data. So if our requirement is to calculate the average value by each of our customer, we need to do some extra steps to come out with the numbers. Okay, right now let's sort our data by customer ID here. Go to the top right corner and click on sort and filter, then sort the data by customer ID. Okay, now we are going to sum the value for customer ID 1, and then we divide it by 2 because there are 2 rows for customer ID 1, and we get 150 here. Okay, the same thing we do it for customer ID 2, which is also 150 here, and the rest of it is all distinct values, so the average will remain as the same. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the summation of this column here. Okay, sum of all the rows here, which will return 1100. Okay, and then let's divide this number with the counts on this column. So there is 10 records here, and we're gonna divide this number here by 10. Okay, and we will get 110 here. Okay, now we want to achieve this figure inside QlikSense as well. Okay, and this is where aggregation comes in. Okay, now let's go back to QlikSense And let's do this step by step. Let's add in a new measure here. Now let's do a sum first, like how we do in Excel. Then we are going to do an average here. We're going to average by the customer ID. Right after we have aggregate by customer ID, what we did in Excel, we perform an average here. Alright. Now let's click on apply here. This is showing 140. Something is not right here. Let's check our expression again. Okay, here we need to start by averaging the value by customer ID. And yep, we get 110 here. Because remember, for the average function, it performs the sum operator first, then for each of the customer, it will divide by how many distinct records that is available for each customer. Next, we wrap the aggregation function with an outer average function to tell QlikSense that once we have averaged the value by each of the customer, we want to have another average by totaling the sum of average values and divided by the number of distinct customers. Okay? So yeah, that's all for the lesson today. Hope you enjoyed this video and I can't wait to see you in the next lessons. Thanks and bye bye.